it was close for a while. In fact, when I went back and kind of, because we were all busy with our stuff yesterday, when I went back and combed through this game and watched the highlights, I was like, well, man, that play that's getting all this attention with the sunlight is getting that attention because the Cowboys were about to take the lead late in the first half, and it legitimately was a big play. Now, I agree with Clarence. Like, I think it probably would have ended up going the way it went anyway. But things are seemingly better in Eagles land right now than they were maybe a month and a half ago.
Yeah, the Eagles defense is kind of the story of town here. They now haven't allowed a touchdown in 3 of their last 5 games. Ever since they came out of the bye, they implemented rookie Cooper DeJean from Iowa into that kind of nickel package to take over for Avonte Maddox, who probably has lost a step due to some injuries over time building up. But the defense is kind of the story of it here. Jalen Hurts has cleaned up his turnover issue, which he had before the bye. Had one yesterday, but that was a hell of a play to Diggs. Probably should have gotten the throw off a little bit earlier. But you're exactly right, Adam. I was sitting there yesterday with a group of diehards, and it was 7-6, and the Eagles were absolutely dominating the game. They were getting turnovers in the red zone, and they just weren't taking advantage of it. And they were only up 7-6, and it's almost a situation where you're losing, and then the Eagles scored before half, and then that was pretty much it. It was the kill shot to the Cowboys. They came out in the second half and just controlled the game. The defense is viable. And, they're second in the NFL now in points per game, only behind the Chargers. So, like, the turnaround they had basically no turnovers the first 4 weeks of the year. And I think they have 12 in the last 5 games. So the turnovers have started to come in bunches. The secondary play between their first-round pick, Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo, and Cooper DeJean, who they got from Iowa in the second round, this is shaping up to be an A++ draft because at the end of last year, the big problem was the secondary. You had James Bradbury, who was on his last legs. You had a couple older guys, and the Eagles knew they had to address it, and they went out and addressed it with their top 2 draft picks. And it really is kind of the story of the year right now, how good this Vic Fangio defense is playing. Now, part of it is there was one good quarterback in the mix. In fairness, there was a Cooper Rush in there. There was a Daniel Jones, or not a Daniel Jones in there. There were some really bad quarterbacks in there.
Yeah.
They did handle Joe Burrow. So, this Thursday on the short week versus Jaden Daniels, that's a huge test for them. But the defense has really got this town kind of excited.
But Jamie, Bo, real quick, I'll jump in on this just because, we had Vic in Chicago here, and, he was, first of all, a joy to cover. I just loved how blatantly honest he was. Even in press conferences, he's a throwback. But you know what? To be honest, we live in such a NFL media world right now where so many coaches are so paranoid about the feelings of their players at all times that they're so afraid to say anything that's gonna, get anybody upset. And Vic just doesn't give a shit. He's just like, like you didn't play well. He's got to be better. He can't do that. And he's not like disrespectful about it at all. He's just saying what's obvious. And I always respected that. But most importantly, like, dude, his defenses are just good wherever he goes. The scheme works. It doesn't really. In one of the great things about the NFL is how things are cyclical and teams figure out certain schemes and they learn how to beat them over time. And like Vic, it doesn't really matter where he goes. It works. So if there was one constant I thought the Eagles had this year, maybe it wasn't going to be immediate. But to your point, Jamie, I'm just not surprised at all to see this thing start to come around. There's too much talent on that defense. They've obviously hit on some really good draft picks. My feelings on Jalen Carter well documented. I wanted the Bears to draft him, and they didn't. They gave him to the Eagles instead. They got a punter out of it, so good for them. But
being pulled, baby.
Yeah, it's not surprising to see this Eagles defense come around, is my point, because he's just too good of a coordinator.
And to throw more flowers at Vic Fangio here, one of the moves, Eagles have a history of ignoring the linebacker position. They don't invest heavily in it. They don't draft highly with it. They just believe that, the defense, they're built like kind of opposite, from the trenches out. Secondary linebacker can be ignored. Vic Fangio went out and got Zack Baun, a guy who hadn't really played a full-time linebacker position before. And he staked his claim and said, this is the guy I wanted. So much so that they let Devin White go this season. And Zack Baun and Nakobe Dean are getting better by the week. And Zack Baun is flying around. He's aggressive. He's blitzing. He's doing well in coverage. So Vic Fangio, the GM, really kind of hit a home run there with Zack Baun.
Yeah, I think the next 3 weeks are going to be huge, test for the Eagles. I mean, you talk about the quarterbacks that they've faced in the last couple of weeks, and they took care of business. Credit to them doing so. But Jaden Daniels on a short week, as you mentioned, and then back-to-back road games. You go against a revamped Rams offense. Matthew Stafford and his receivers are back, and they look like they did last season, and they've kind of refound it. And then on the road against the Ravens. I mean, those are going to be 3 huge tests for this defense to continue to roll. So I'm interested to see how that pans out. And then, a little bit of a reprieve there with the Panthers, and then the Steelers right back at it, who looked good against the
Who are
Commanders.
No joke now.
Yeah. I
mean, Russell
look,
Wilson's kind of back, I guess.
I guess. I mean, he was able to win that game, in pretty impressive fashion, the way they did, going back and forth with the Commanders. So yeah, I can't wait to see starting this week, how or if the Eagles are for real. But they've done a good job taking advantage of some of these down teams. Same thing with the team I cover, the Cardinals.
Yeah, and we're very familiar with Jonathan Gannon here in Philly.
You love him.
This is a huge for the most part I did. I mean, he had an NFL record in sacks. How do you not like a defensive coordinator that got you 73 sacks one year? But this Thursday, short week, I think one of the positives there is that the Steelers are a physical team and they beat people up. So the Commanders on a short rest coming into Philly. And quick shout out to our guy, Vinny Curry, who does the post-game show with us. He's actually getting his official retirement with the Birds on Thursday night. He'll be out there for the coin toss. He's officially retiring as an Eagle. So it's a special night here at the PHLY family for our man, Vinny, who is going to be honored. So very cool stuff. And Jaden Daniels is super impressive. Every time I watch that guy, he's putting the ball on the money, out of harm's way. He just has that cool poise to him. This is going to be a great game on Thursday.
We all silly like the mayor.